was one of my favorite TV shows, not just of its year, but possibly of all time.
My favorite Star Wars show they've probably ever created.
Okay, so this isn't exactly a hot take. You've probably watched multiple other YouTubers do exactly what I'm about to do, and that is worship this show like it is God. Andor is the single best thing I have ever seen Star Wars do. Everybody says that, and everybody knows it, because it's true. But apart from saying, oh, it's really, really good, the other common thing that people say about Andor is that many of the main characters are gonna die. And this fear and pessimism isn't without warrant. This show was written by the same man who wiped out the entire main cast of Rogue One. If this was any other show, I'd probably be trying to predict which characters are gonna die, but with this show, so many of the characters are gonna die that if I guess which character's gonna die, even if I have absolutely no idea and just pick a random guess, there is a good chance that I get it right. So the proper challenge for this show isn't guessing which characters die, it's guessing how they die. What occurs in their character arc and the relationship to the other characters that causes them to die. And that's what we're going to be doing in this video. There are a few characters that we know for pretty much a certain are going to die, so I'm going to go through all of those characters, and then we're going to decide how they die. So the first character that we know is going to die is Luthen Rael. First of all, because he's foreshadowed it several times, saying that he will never ever see the defeat of the Empire.
I burn my life to make a sunrise that I know I'll never see.
And then saying that he wins or he dies.
Never ends, does it? All the hiding.
It will. We'll bring them down or die trying. What else is there?
The fact that he makes more than one reference to burning implies to me that he might burn to death at the end of the season.
It will burn. Very brightly.
I get that burning is used as a metaphor in both of these cases, however, if you make more than one reference to burning in the space of one show, then you've got to wonder if they're foreshadowing something here. Although it's worth noting that this is a show where they kill people in a very offhanded way, like crushed with a crate of money or an accidental blaster shot. So I think burning might be a bit too glorious for a character in this show, but no, I'm not trying to guess what the actual cause of their death is, as in what's going to be written on their death certificate. I'm trying to guess what events in their character arc are going to take place that will cause them to die. So, let's analyse the character of Luthen Rael and see what we think might kill him. If I had to pick two words to describe Luthen, it would be dedicated and paranoid. He does absolutely nothing in his life except work on the rebellion, and he expects that same work ethic from those around them. As soon as you tell him that you prioritise anything as much or more than the rebellion, he's baffled.
And that's what's most important, right? How it goes for you.
What's most important is the cause.
What Luthen fails to realise is you have to have at least one person in your life to care about. Even if you give up everything for the rebellion, 99.5% of people won't be able to give up everyone for the rebellion. And you will inevitably come into a conflict with Luthen when he demands that you prioritise the rebellion over anybody you have left in your life. If you work for Luthen, you will devote everything you have to the rebellion. Every piece of your soul, every gram of your heart, and every second of your time. You will do whatever it takes to win this war, and you do not have another option. The only person that is as committed as Luthen to this rebellion, that he knows at least, is Kleya. Kleya is the only person that Luthen probably isn't going to fall out with. Everybody else will probably fall out with him eventually. This brings me on to the second word I used to describe Luthen. Paranoid. I hesitate to even use the word paranoid, considering his worry normally isn't without warrant. However, if he thinks you know anything, even if you have absolutely no reason to snitch, he will kill you. Before Andor joins the rebellion, he is determined to kill Andor. The thing that really got me was that when he found out Take Holmer was a potential liability, he didn't even wait a day to kill Take Holmer. Take Holmer was dead within a couple of hours, if that. He walked out of the room and put the hit on him. And he has to do this. If he didn't do this, the rebellion would have been defeated years ago. But the inevitable side effect of constantly worrying who is and isn't a threat is that you eventually start to worry if your friends are a threat. And your friends start to be afraid of you. As the saying goes, treat everyone like a threat, and you become a threat to everybody. Imagine this. What if you worked for somebody who, if he thought someone knew some information, they'd be dead within the hour? Because I'd be terrified. I'd be staying up at night wondering if Luthen would ever suspect me of treachery. And sure, Luthen has to do this, but that won't change the fact that I am afraid of him. In conclusion, Luthen's downfall will come when he has a falling out with one of his closest allies. That falling out will come either because he demands too much of them for the rebellion, because he suspects them of being a liability and tries to have them killed, or because they're afraid that he will suspect them of being a liability and try to have them killed. We already see this start to happen in the second arc, when Cassian has an argument with Luthen about Bix.
Bix has to pull it together, or you will have to decide at what point it becomes too large a problem.
Let's just think about what Luthen means here. One of the key messages of Andor is that once you're in a rebellion, you cannot leave. It will swallow you whole. Luthen's time in the rebellion has turned him into an empty husk of a human being. He couldn't leave if he wanted to, because after doing the things that he's done, living a normal human life is impossible for him. Luthen has stated before that the way this rebellion works is that you win or you die. He refuses to let Lonnie leave the rebellion when he asks, and if somebody actually tries to leave the rebellion, he would probably kill them because of how much information they knew. And even if you do escape Luthen's assassins, there is nowhere you can go where the Empire will not find you. When Cassian escapes to Neamos, he is immediately captured, and Bix has been displaced twice by the Empire when they arrive on her planet. Neither of them are in the rebellion by choice. They're there because there is nowhere else they can go where the Empire will not find them. When Luthen says,
Bix has to pull it together, or you will have to decide at what point it becomes too large a problem.
what he means is, we might have to kill Bix, because if she isn't helping us, then she is another potential security leak. This comes only seconds after he brought up that when Cassian joined the rebellion, he did so with the phrase, "Kill me or take me in."
Kill me or take me in. You're in!
If either of them leave the rebellion, they will be killed. This is what Luthen will not hesitate to do. I think Luthen realised that he couldn't afford to lose two of his most valuable allies, because he gave Bix a chance to confront her arch-nemesis. However, I'm wondering how long the partnership between Bix, Cassian and Luthen can last. Remember, Cassian was afraid of Luthen even before they had this conversation. When Bix tells him about a conversation she had with Luthen, he panics and wants to get mad at him.
Go out on your own? He waits for me to leave. He comes when you're alone.
He changed his mind, so...
I rode back with him this afternoon. He never mentioned it.
Even before the conversation, Luthen was evidently a bit worried about them. That's why he tested them.
You had to know she would tell me.
I thought it would be interesting if you didn't, but now you both disappointed me.
This is because Luthen believes you shouldn't tell each other anything unless it is absolutely necessary. Even the smallest things can lead to a disaster, and both of them failed the test. My point is that I can't see the alliance between these people lasting much longer. We know that in the next episode the Gorman massacre is going to happen, and Cassian and Bix will be on Gorman, so maybe Luthen just manages to convince them to go and join the Gorman project. We'll see. The other character that appears to be turning against Luthen because he prioritises the cause over anything else is Vel Sartha. That's because in episode 6 they pulled out the classic bury your gaze trope and killed Cinta. I will say that somebody's death does work in this situation for the plot. There are about two ways this can go for Vel. Option A. Vel has nothing left in her life, and so she only focuses on the rebellion. She has spent the entire series wondering whether or not she should prioritise her partner or her cause. But now that her partner is dead, she can do nothing but fight the rebellion. Or option B. She becomes alienated from Luthen. Remember, the point of Luthen's arc is that if you prioritise nothing but the revolution, you will alienate anyone with some humanity left. And in the case of Vel, she has seen Luthen keep her from her partner for years now. And when she finally gets another chance, finds out the extent of the deceit, her partner dies, robbing her of what could have been years of a beautiful relationship. Even if Vel doesn't actively turn against Luthen, she may be a bit more reluctant to protect Luthen if he comes under attack. And in a galaxy where literally phrasing a sentence wrong can bring an entire rebellion down, or hesitation to shoot for even a second can get you killed, that's the kind of thing that can make a difference. So, when Luthen becomes an enemy of one of his friends, who's it going to be? Which friend is going to fall out with him? Is it going to be Cassian? Bix? Vel? Well, I'm not sure any of those would really properly drive the point home that being too paranoid will turn you against everybody. I mean, Cassian and Luthen, for instance, were never close confidants, and there was always a baseline lack of trust between them. So I soon began to wonder if actually the only way to properly drive home the inevitable destruction of your entire life was to have Luthen turn on the one person he fully trusts, perhaps his only confidant, Kleya. Maybe they seem quite close now, but there's 2 years left of this show's runtime, and it only takes a few days to turn things around. So I do wonder if maybe he's going to turn against Kleya, but then I remembered it didn't make sense for him to turn against Kleya because she's the only one who prioritises the rebellion as much as he does. So in conclusion to the Luthen Rael section of this video, he's gonna die because he falls out with one of his allies. It could be Bix, Cassian, but probably not Kleya. Speaking of Bix, she's dead as well. Firstly, because Luthen foreshadows it in this line.
Never ends, does it? All the hiding?
It will. We'll bring them down or die trying. What else is there?
But also because in Rogue One, Cassian says that he lost everything.
You're not the only one who lost everything.
I do understand that it's possible they could have broken up and just not be seeing each other anymore. However, I don't think Cassian would have said that he lost everything unless Bix was actually dead. Aside from that, I do have some predictions on exactly how Bix is gonna die. Wilman and Bix have been treated awfully by the Empire. They've been displaced twice, had their best friend killed, Bix's boyfriend and Wilman's father were killed, Bix has also been captured and tortured by the Empire, which still gives her nightmares. Now let's take Wilman. Wilman was always willing to fight the Empire. He builds a bomb, he doesn't hesitate to use it, and he keeps a blaster on him to fight the Empire. But Bix, on the other hand, is a little bit less enthusiastic and eager to fight the Empire. She won't shy away from doing it. If somebody attacks her, then she's always going to fight back in self-defense. However, at the time of the most recent arc, that's the second arc for those watching in the future, Bix's earliest known kill was 1 year ago. Cassian's earliest known kill was 3 years ago. But it's implied that he killed more people even before that. Cassian has spent years making peace with the fact that he is going to have to kill a few people, a lot of people in fact, if he wants him and those he loves to survive. Biggs, on the other hand, has only been killing for a year. In Season 1 of Andor, Cassian is a bit hesitant to shoot somebody. He has to take a couple of seconds to decide, yes, I have to shoot this person to survive. But in Rogue One, he seems to immediately make the decision in less than a second. Part of Cassian's character arc, then, is accepting that this is what he has to do to survive. As of the second act of Andor Season 2, he seems to be all or most of the way there.
You and I are here now because he's dead.
Bix, on the other hand, who hasn't been killing for nearly as long as Cassian, isn't quite there yet. And I did wonder if maybe that was where she was going. Maybe she was going to accept the fact that if she wants to live, she is going to have to kill a lot of people in cold blood. Maybe that's the path of all evolutionaries, gradually becoming a cold-blooded killer. However, as you continue watching the show, you realise that Bix doesn't appear to be learning to cope. She isn't making peace or coming to terms with the fact, is she? No, she's doing drugs to cope. She claims she uses them for sleep, but she doesn't appear to be sleeping.
Which is why you're awake every other night.
From what we see, she's staying up all night with a blaster, even answering the door with a blaster. Also, on the off chance she is getting a bit of help from the drugs, Luthen says that when she can't have access to the drugs anymore, they will come back worse.
It works for a while. But the dreams come back worse when you stop.
And that is definitely going to happen, by the way. If she suddenly has to leave the planet, she's probably not going to be able to take too many drugs with her. And maybe the drugs won't be available on another planet. And considering this is a rebellion with limited resources that can't be spent on things like crack cocaine, I think it's inevitable that she will eventually not be able to access the drugs she's addicted to. In an interview with Bix's actress, Adria Arjona, she says that Bix is going on a downward spiral ever since Tim betrayed her and she hit her head.
The betrayal of Tim is, I think, what completely breaks her, and she kind of can't understand why that happened, and also feels so silly and stupid and sort of judges herself. I'm like, why would I ever mention anything? And I think that head injury doesn't help her either. And that sort of takes her on this almost spiral where she no longer is Bix. She sort of loses that autonomy. She loses that power, that fierceness.
Now, admittedly this interview aired during the release of Season 1, so she probably didn't know the plot of Season 2 at the time, but counterpoint, nobody knows Bix better than Adria Arjona. Her flat was filled with notebooks of her analysing the character of Bix so she could understand the person she was playing.
I talked a lot to Tony about sort of the arc at the apartment that I was staying in London. I had an office, and I always looked like a serial killer because I had notepads everywhere. I felt so, it's like, oh my God, I'm an actress. I just kept telling everyone, I was like, I'm an actress. If you come in, don't get scared.
If Adria Arjona says that Bix is going on a downward spiral, I believe her. And also because no truly moral or compassionate person can ever fully make peace or accept the fact that so many people are going to have to die to keep them alive.
You didn't kill that boy because we're at war. You killed him because he saw my face.
Bix's mental state will continue to decrease. Now, some of you may be asking if I'm being a little bit pessimistic. Is there any way at all that Bix's mental state continues to improve? Well, maybe. At the end of episode 6, she kills Dr. Gorst. Now that he's dead, it's possible that her bad dreams may stop. Possibly. It depends why the bad dreams are there. If the bad dreams are there out of fear that Dr. Gorst may return and that it might happen again, then yeah, killing Dr. Gorst is going to stop the bad dreams, probably. And if the dreams stop, well, she claims she uses the drugs for sleep, so perhaps you can get off the drugs, because she's sleeping better. Then there's the other possibility. The idea that the bad dreams aren't there out of fear, but simply because the memories exist. Because the trauma is too great for it to ever go away completely. And if that second option is true, then, well, killing the Doctor will be cathartic, it'll save God knows how many other beings from becoming the victims of Dr. Gorst, it'll be a great deed to do for the galaxy, but she'll be doomed to have those dreams forever. They can never truly stop. And if that latter option is true, then her mental health will only continue to decline. She's gonna suffer every night and then wake up every morning and keep a blaster on her at all times, and she's gonna have to kill so many people for her own survival, and eventually she's gonna wonder, what's the point? What's the point in killing so many people to keep herself alive if she doesn't even enjoy being alive? Not even sleep provides her an escape. She believes that this rebellion will save the galaxy from the Empire. But how can one save the galaxy? By killing the people in it. So, what's the logical conclusion to this character arc? What is Bix going to do that's going to get herself killed? Well, she can't leave. Both her and Cassian have tried escaping the Empire, and it never works. Every time they try, the Empire always shows up and catches them. They can't leave the rebellion, but a life in the rebellion is not a life the Bix wants. It's not one she can be happy with. Except if she dies, then all of those people died for nothing. I think that Bix is going to realise she can't live like this anymore. So instead, she's going to make the ultimate sacrifice for the rebellion. She's going to get that sweet release of death, but she's going to save lives in the process. She's hopefully going to save the rebellion. It won't be a heroic death, it's not going to go down in the history books, and she doesn't want it to. She's done her part, she helped win the war. And hopefully, she can go out on the condolence that she saved more lives than she ended. Okay, the next characters we know are going to die are Mon Mothma's whole family. And we know this because Perrin and Leader must die for the plot to work. The next arc isn't out yet, but we know vaguely what's going to happen. Basically, there's going to be a huge massacre on Gorman, done by the Empire, probably reminiscent of the Tiananmen Square massacre. This is going to cause Mon Mothma to give a big speech saying, "Screw the Empire, he's evil, he's just a lying executioner."
I name the Emperor himself for ordering the brutal attacks on the people of Gorman. This massacre is proof that our self-appointed Emperor is little more than a lying executioner, imposing his tyranny under the pretense of security. We cannot allow this evil to stand.
And then she's going to escape. The best pilots the rebellion have are going to smuggle her through the Imperial security for her to then lead a rebellion against the Empire. But if you commit a crime against a fascist state, it's not just you that's going to be punished. If you commit a crime in, say, North Korea, for example, your entire family will reap the consequences. That's why, by giving a huge speech against the Empire, Mon Mothma has effectively signed the death warrant of her daughter and her husband. That's why many people who join the rebellion don't have families, because only people with nobody who relies on them can take the risk of going to war.
There's nothing for me here now.
Therefore, I think Mon Mothma's entire family has to die before she can take the risk of joining the rebellion. Now, admittedly, she is in quite a loveless marriage with Perrin. He finds her boring, talks to other people, disagrees with her politics. But if you live with somebody for years, even if it was a loveless and arranged marriage from the start, which it was, then there must be some love lost to see them tortured by stormtroopers. And what about Leader? Mon Mothma genuinely loves Leader. She wouldn't want to see her captured. Admittedly, Mon could agree to have Perrin and Leader go into hiding, but a life in hiding is not a happy one, and it's not one you would wish on somebody you genuinely loved. So, I think before Mon Mothma goes to war against Palpatine, her entire family has to die. How will they die? The Empire, I guess? But wait a minute, Mon Mothma gave that speech in the Senate, calling the Emperor a lying executioner, then somehow got smuggled off-world. She had to know that once she said what she said, she was going to have to get off-world as fast as possible so she didn't get killed. She wouldn't call the Emperor a lying executioner unless her family was already dead, and she already had an escape route planned off-world. Once again, the Empire won't kill her family unless they know she's a rebel, but she can't be an open rebel unless they kill her family. So they must have already known she was a rebel by the time she gave this speech, and so they must have already been ready to arrest her. So how does she give this speech and survive? Well, we never actually get a shot of Mon Mothma giving the speech in the Senate, only a recording on a hologram. So I guess it's possible that the Empire found out she was a rebel, killed her family, allowing her to hologram into the Senate, calling the Emperor a lying executioner. and evil. The other possibility is that Luthen has Mon Mothma's family killed, allowing her to join the cause properly. Either way, they die. Moving on, Dedra and Cyril. So just update on these guys. In the last episode about Andor, I talked about how I wasn't sure if they were together or dating, and my parents actually assumed that they were pretending to be married because that's how bad their chemistry was. But every other Star Wars YouTuber has appeared to run under the assumption that they are in fact together, and in interviews with the actors, they appear to just say that Dedra and Cyril are together. So I guess they're together. These people prioritise 3 things in their life: gaining personal glory, serving the Empire, and capturing Cassian Andor. So, both of these people will soon be going behind each other's backs for the Empire. Dedra is already lying to Cyril, and she believes he's doing it to serve the Empire.
Cyril must never know what this is all really about.
I remind myself constantly, sir.
But Cyril hasn't yet started lying to Dedra, and I think that's going to happen eventually. What's probably going to happen is the Gormans convince him that they're actually serving the Empire.
Many of us believe the Emperor has no idea what's being done on his behalf. We think the ISB is running a shadow government.
To be honest, nothing would surprise me at this point.
So he's going to actually gain sympathy for and support the Gorman front, and go behind Dedra's back to do it. And he's going to believe that he's doing it to serve the Empire. And who's going to be the cause of it? Well, I think it's this lady. When Cyril is talking to his mum and the Gorman front are listening in on him, there's a long shot of this lady, and then, when everybody's ordered out of the room, there's also a very long shot of this lady doing an unreadable poker face. The writer's room evidently wants us to think that this lady is a spy. But who is she spying for? Well, there's 3 options. She's either spying for Luthen, the Empire, or the Gorman front. And at the moment, I think it's most likely the Gorman front, but we'll see. Either way, Cyril's going to soon be going behind Dedra's back. And this lady is going to be the cause of it. The only other possibility is that she never ever shows up again, simply because she gets caught by the Empire for being a spy, and so she's gone. Dead. So, Cyril and Dedra are going to turn on each other, both because they believe they are doing so for the Empire. Dedra, we've already seen, and Cyril because he develops sympathy for the Gorman cause, and believes that they are fighting for the Empire against the ISB. Now, apart from the Empire, what else are these 2 people obsessed with? Cassian Andor. They spent the whole first season looking for him, and very reluctantly called off the hunt. And now they've been humiliated for their failure to catch Cassian, they're even more desperate to hunt down and destroy him. I think what's going to happen is that they are going to see an opportunity to catch Cassian Andor, and they're going to be blinded by this opportunity. They will attempt to catch Cassian, but they will think about Cassian so much that they will forget the bigger picture, and their attempts to catch Cassian Andor will be their downfall. I say downfall and not death, because unlike other characters, we don't have much solid evidence to suggest they're going to die. Cyril and Dedra are the first people I've talked about today, whom I'm less than certain are going to die. Lonnie! Everyone's favourite. Initially, I thought Luthen was going to allow Lonnie to be captured by the Empire to sell him out. See, in the first season, Lonnie was so valuable to Luthen that he was able to sacrifice 30 men
plus Krieger
for Lonnie to survive. But now, Lonnie's intelligence is coming at a much slower rate. It takes him 3 months to get the information out, and is very reluctant to help Clea save the listening device. So, if Lonnie is so much less valuable, then maybe it's possible that Luthen is willing to sacrifice Lonnie for his other allies, like Bix and Cassian for instance. Luthen has Bix blow up the most important intelligence asset the Empire has, dead centre in the middle of Coruscant, the single most heavily guarded planet in the heart of the Empire. If a heist on Aldhani, a small outer rim planet, causes a massive Imperial crackdown in the PORD, then just imagine what happens if there's a massive explosion inside a top secret research facility which nobody on Coruscant should know about happens. What kind of crackdown is going to happen then? And considering only 2 people in the ISB know about it, it's not going to be hard for them to find out who did it. So maybe this is Luthen's plan to get Lonnie executed. Except then I thought about it for a bit and realised that could never happen, because if Lonnie gets captured, he can lead the Empire straight back to Luthen. So why would Luthen put Lonnie in so much danger if he knew it could lead the ISB straight back to his hideout? I'll tell you how. They want to get rid of this guy, because this person is in charge of looking for the Axis network, and he seems to be more competent at it than Dedra Miro, and evidently Luthen is afraid of him. I think what Luthen and Lonnie are trying to do here is they're going to frame this fellow for being a spy. Then once they take this guy out of the picture, they're going to put someone else in charge of the Axis project, someone who's less likely to uncover Luthen. For instance, it could be Dedra, or probably not her, because the Empire thinks she's incompetent. So better yet, Lonnie. That's my theory for Lonnie. Either Lonnie or Dedra are going to get back in charge of the Axis network. Oh, and also, Palpatine is going to put like a bunch of new orders in place that can allow him to crack down a lot more and give him more power. And he's going to use this massive explosion in the middle of Coruscant as a justification. So now we've finished talking about people that we know are going to die, let's talk about things we know are going to happen. Namely, Luthen's hideout is going to get found by the ISB. We know this because, well, of the way that a plot works. If you spend 2 entire seasons of the show hiding a secret, then eventually that secret is going to get found. But how is it going to get found? Well, I think a rebel spy or a listening device is going to get found, and that is going to lead the ISB straight back to Luthen's shop. See, in the most recent arc, one of their listening devices is almost found, and luckily Luthen and Clea managed to get it. However, what this shows is just how suddenly, easily and quickly anything can go wrong. This plot isn't just filler to keep us entertained. This plot is foreshadowing that eventually something else, a sleeper agent, another listening device, is going to get found. And next time, they're not going to be so lucky as to extract the listening device before they find it. So, who's it going to be that leads the ISB straight back to Luthen's shop? Well, obviously I don't know for certain, but I'm going to say Lonnie, just because it seems like the writer's room is grooming Lonnie up to be, you know, caught and become a liability to the rebellion. So in conclusion, here is my official bingo card for the next 2 arcs of Andor. Now, I haven't managed to fill up every space on my bingo card, they have 25 spaces on them, so if you have any other ideas for what to put in a bingo card, please tell me. The one other idea I'm going to add is I asked my dad what he thought was going to happen, and he said that Dedra was going to join the rebellion. Now, this obviously isn't going to happen, but I thought it would be funny anyway, so I'm going to put it in my free space. Dedra Redemption arc. Come on, Tony, we need that. But for now, this is my bingo card. Those are all my predictions and thoughts. Bye!